So some say this yen breaching 160 has to do with algo's fat finger, but maybe it's just a case of traders wanting to push and see how far it can go lower.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a function of fundamentals in a certain sense. The U.S. data continues to be very strong, as you've just mentioned. The earnings, fantastic as well. So it's a difficult position that the BOJ finds themselves in, because if you intervene, really the most important thing is you have to be credible. And so that issue comes right against that issue in terms of the U.S. data and the yield gap that is presented to themselves. So when you're faced with that, it's not just then a question of the credibility, it's then how to calibrate, particularly in thin liquidity. So I think any action that they will come in will be a smoother action. It won't be the heavy-fisted action that we saw in 2022, for example.
Kando has come out to say that it will intervene if it sees rapid movement.
Yeah.
What exactly? He says if you see a 10-yen move within a period of a month, we've seen 7 in a month, but 2% in a week and 10% on the year. That's massive.
It is massive. One of the key thresholds and conditions we were looking for has been triggered now, and that has been to see 1 month implied volatility in dollar-yen move above the 10% threshold. And that to us characterizes a nature where the market is starting to get dislocative. We saw a couple of weeks ago the trilateral statement from the Ministry of Finance in Japan, Korea, and the United States saying they're closely focused on orderly functioning of markets. And if we start to see more in volatility come in through, let's say, in implied volatilities, or as well, what was noticeable last week was that the rest of Asia was relatively calm. Although then we saw Bank Indonesia do a surprise rate hike, which suggests, well, you know, people are starting to get more worried what it means for other currencies in the region. And I think that's the other threshold that we need to watch. Is the yen a problem for the rest of the Asia? Is it a problem for, as well, U.S. Treasury markets and JGB markets as well?
It could be a problem for the yuan, right? I mean, absolutely. Yuan bulls would want to see intervention in the yen.
Yes, absolutely. And if we don't, then maybe we start to get some incremental movement in dollar renminbi. And we've seen funding conditions ease up on dollar CNH, on the CNH market. That suggests that the tight grip of the PBOC is being a little bit more relaxed on that front. So that may say, well, we might be willing to concede to some movement. We've seen the dollar China fixing move above that, incrementally above that 7.10 level. So that may be a factor that they may be preparing for a little bit of adjustment on their side. Our quarter-end forecast for dollar renminbi is 735, and then for Q3, Q4, 745.
The thing is, for Japan, there's reason to exercise restraint. In an environment of higher for longer, we don't even know what the Fed's going to do or not do this year. I mean, could it, I guess, put its credibility into question if it just doesn't do anything?
I think, again, it depends on the disorderly versus orderly kind of behavior of the market. Yes, you can examine this as being somewhat fundamentally explained. What's also important is that to say that a lot is priced into the market in terms of the Fed, in terms of the hawkishness of the Fed. We've only got about 33, 35 basis points of rate cuts priced in. So a lot of the kind of the damage has been done in taking back those Fed easing calls. So, you know, again, as long as they can adjust this currency in an orderly manner, then I think we're okay. But it is important, particularly when we start seeing these 30-year levels being taken out in the market. It starts to have more meaningful consequences for everybody, and so they may have to come in to try to stabilize the situation.
Claudio, you got to imagine or question how much is needed to actually support the currency. I mean, given that you don't know how high the dollar might go, what is the level that is comfortable for both the BOJ and the Ministry of Finance? Is it below 150? Is that the level that is comfortable?
I think no. I think in a certain sense, if we were to get back to 150 level, that would be okay by the end of the year. I think that would be a comfortable level in some sense of what we're seeing. I mean, it's important as well to look at real exchange rates in the region. And if we look at real effective exchange rates in the region for the renminbi is actually quite weak. It's at a 10-year low. If we look for Korea as well as in a somewhat similar position. So it's important to look not just at the nominal value of exchange rates, but the real value of exchange rates. And we're still faced by the fact that actually by that metric, the dollar is looking overvalued. The question for everybody is when does that dollar cycle turn? And we keep extending that dollar and the US economic outlook out. So I think, you know, that has shifted to 2025, and that's where I think the ground has shifted to. So I think everybody is now conceded that the rest of the year, to some degree, will see this dollar strength continue.